Hey everybody, Jimmy here at Fins and Feathers Overland, hoping to save you the grief and pain and suffering I experienced in learning how to build my truck. So this is a reel about suspension setups for your overland truck build for fly fishing and bird hunting. So begin with whatever outfit you're considering by checking out the gross vehicle weight rating and the payload. So if you open the door of any vehicle, you'll find a sticker that's going to have that fact for you. So right here, right, the combined weight of occupants and cargo should never exceed, and in the case of this stock Tundra, it's 1,320 pounds. So you find that out. Then think about what you're gonna put on your build. But remember that through 1,320 pounds payload includes the occupants and your general cargo, right? So if you have 4 or 5 big dudes in your truck, that's gonna be around 800 to 1,000 pounds of humanity right there. Then add 3 or 4 bird dogs, let's say they're big dogs. Now you're maybe 200 to 300 pounds there. All your cargo in terms of dog food, water, shotgun shells, shotguns, you're going to blow past that 1,300 pounds on something like a stock Tundra, or in most half-ton pickups or say mid-sized Tacomas, you're going to shoot past that payload super quickly. Same with SUVs. That is why you often see half-tons and mid-sized vehicles and SUVs sagging all the time, because the suspension is not set up to handle the weight load. Now let's just say for a moment that you were going to throw in a truck vault into the back of here. Those things are heavy. Deck system, truck vaults. Then you're going to fill it with all kinds of gear, shotgun shells, dog training supplies. You know everything that gets piled in there. That's going to add massive weight. Then you're going to have your dog kennels, your dog water. You might have a jerry of extra fuel, something like that. And then let's just say on top, you decide to add, along with the rod racks, which are surprisingly heavy. Those things are like often 50 to 75 pounds. That's why I went with that trestle for the 4-wheel camper, because it's so light, you can still pop the camper. But yeah, let's say you add a rooftop tent, put a solar panel on your rooftop tent, a powered refrigerator, battery system for that. Pretty soon, and let's just go ahead and make this addition too. Most of you will probably want some kind of a front bumper replacement eventually. You aren't necessarily going to have a winch in there like the Power Wagon, but in terms of animal collision protection, that's the #1 reason I always put those on, because I'm running in central and eastern Montana in the dark, coming and going, and there's just tons of deer and all kinds of critters. So I'm not going to get stranded by having one of those, but they add massive amounts of weight. If it's a solid bumper that's going to protect you from collisions, you're probably looking at somewhere around 300 to 500 pounds of additional weight, as opposed to a stock setup. Of course, when you hit the deer and it flies right through this plastic and into your radiator and smashes that part of your engine, you're stranded in the middle of nowhere with your dogs and your trip's over. So point is though, that over there, a front bumper replacement is going to add a lot of weight. So before you do your suspension, do anything to your stock suspension, add up, think through your entire build and add up how much weight you are going to add to your vehicle. Then subtract the standard payload that your vehicle has for its rating from that amount of weight and see how much you are over payload. Once you know that, then you go to work working with a pro shop to figure out how much you're going to have to upgrade the springs. You can see in this Power Wagon, if you look in there, those springs are super heavy duty now. Didn't start that way. Power Wagon comes with jelly springs for off-roading. In the case of something like the Tundra, you just have a standard leaf spring. You'll be upgrading that to a heavier duty leaf spring, probably something by Old Man Emu that's going to be a heavy duty leaf pack. And the goal is to ultimately spring your vehicle, get the suspension so the springs are stiff enough for your weight load. Now, here's where I struggled until I finally got this figured out. Once you know that you have the springs correctly set, and you'll know that in part because your vehicle sits level, even with full payload, it's not sagging. It's going to, you can look at it and just generally see that you have a level vehicle, like the stock Tundra with no weight in it, right? Everything looks even. So when you have a full payload, if your spring rate is correct, it's not going to look a whole lot different than what it looks like stock. But the next thing you need to do is make sure, these are pretty muddy. These are cleaner because I just bought them. The shocks have the dampening capability to handle the weight that you have on your vehicle. So once the springs are there, great. That's the first part. The second part is getting the shocks correct. So you want to make sure your shocks are beefy enough to dampen the vehicle correctly for the weight load. And how you can get a sense of that is if you rock a vehicle like that, and you let go of it, it should quickly level itself. If it keeps rocking, your dampening is too light and you need to beef up those shocks. So that is suspension in a nutshell. Hit me up with questions or comments. I hope that saves you money, time, energy, and frustration, just knowing the basics of how to set up your overland build in terms of suspension.